I have probably had about 30 jobs for this specific career. I also became pretty obsessed with like finding the next big thing. I remember one afternoon having like an anxiety attack because I was so bored. To be honest, I had no experience doing it at the time. I think with this community, I was able to hear stories from other women.
At the darkest time or when you are maybe in a really challenging season, what would you want to say to yourself now as future Brianna to past Brianna in that time?
You can't imagine how good it can get.
Download as a complimentary gift from me to you my ebook called The Financial Freedom Formula 5 Steps to Decrease Debt, Increase Your Income, and Save Money. Welcome to the show, Brianna. Super excited to have you on today. Oh, my sorority sister, my friend, and one of the students of our community. Just can't wait to have this conversation. But I would love for you to share a little bit about who you are and what you do.
I'm Jacen's friend and sorority sister, and I live in Las Vegas. My name is Brionna, go by Bri or Brianna. I work in marketing. I'm an account director at a marketing agency named Think True. I do love my career. We do a lot of campaigns, specifically brand experiences with multicultural groups or truly people of color that are needing communications from different brands or needing to create relationships with those brands. I deeply enjoy my time at home. I deeply enjoy time outside. And I really enjoyed moving back to Las Vegas recently.
Ooh, I am enjoying it and I look forward to enjoying it more, especially as it gets a little bit cooler here. There'll be a lot of opportunity to get outside and do fun stuff together. So I know that I'm so happy to hear that you enjoy the work that you do now because one, I feel like so many people hate their jobs. And I feel like it's been a journey for you to get to this place where it's like figuring out like your spot, your sweet spot. I would love to dive into, a few years back as you're getting closer and closer to that sweet spot, but maybe challenged in some ways. What for you felt like some big challenges as you were navigating your professional career, adulthood, finances, like before you joined our community?
Yeah, I have probably had about 30 jobs for this specific career. I didn't know that the career of experiential marketing existed until a couple of years ago. If you think about all of marketing, there's advertising, there's marketing, there's social media marketing, da 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 da, and then there's experiential, which just started a couple decades ago. So it's essentially events, just experiential is a really great way of saying it. But I did a lot of research on the industry. I did a lot of networking events to talk to people one to one and understand, is it better to be on the brand side? Is it better to be on the agency side? What experience did you have before you got your first role? Did a lot of coffees with a lot of strangers. I also took some courses to help amplify my own resume and my own portfolio. I took on clients as a freelancer to help me build some work and some experience. I really did take a lot of steps for about 6 to 12 months before entering the career pathway that I'm on now.
Mm, I love that you mentioned kind of the investment of time and energy to seeking out maybe what you didn't know you were looking for. You just knew you were looking for something. And as you kept moving and talking to people and asking questions, and they, send you down the line or refer you to somebody else, that you got closer and closer to it. And I think that that's one of the things people maybe sleep on to some extent. And so, of course, create an intention, pray about it. Manifestation is great. But then recently, what I've been hearing about is inspired action, right? So, taking inspired action on whatever you can do in the moment, knowing that that's going to lead you one step closer to whatever is really meant for you at the end of the day. And so I love that, you've invested that time and energy to connect with strangers and do the coffee dates and put yourself out there, because I think it's hard for some, or maybe people don't know how to do it or where to begin, you know what I mean? The whole social landscape of things is always an interesting thing, but as you were navigating through that, were there challenges for you, or did it feel natural to kind of like throw yourself out there and start looking for what you knew you wanted?
I'm naturally curious, so the like effort came naturally.
Mm.
Um, it was very exhausting though.
Um,
because at the time I was living in Los Angeles, and to go to an event after work is like a 4 hour round trip of driving.
ugh.
Plus parking is a nightmare pain, stuck in traffic, trying to leave your current job early without seeming too suspicious. So there are challenges in that manner. I also became pretty obsessed with like finding the next big thing. And so my 9 to 5 became less and less
Mm.
attachment to me. I remember one afternoon having like an anxiety attack because I was so bored.
Oh,
And I was just so deeply excited and eager and thrilled about shifting up what I was doing with my 40 hours a week when it comes to how I made my living and doing work that I was really excited about.
wow. Yeah, those signs that your body gives you, when you're like, I can't keep doing this, are opportunities I think that sometimes folks don't take advantage of. And for whatever reason, some people maybe can't for whatever reason, they've got whatever going on, or they just don't believe that the next big thing is even out there for them. And that's so
Uh,
sad, you know?
yeah, I face a lot of women specifically that I speak to that are keep feeling a bit discouraged, which is very understandable. And I do help a lot of friends, family, and clients, to be honest, with reshaping how their resume is written so that they're really jumping off the page to a stranger or to their potential next manager. It's something I started doing years ago, and I still really, really enjoy doing resume workshops or just resume consultations with people for that reason, is to kind of eliminate the discouraged feeling and build this personal brand that people are so proud of, that there's no hesitation, there's no lacking in how they feel when they're making that application decision.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it. Because I remember you have been doing this for some time now. And something as seemingly simple as like a resume, right, can boost somebody's confidence when they're putting themselves out there in the job market, when they're looking and applying for jobs and things like that. And so, I think it's kind of the secret sauce is, if someone is feeling discouraged in their career, what are the tangible things, right, that could be worked on to help them have a little bit more encouragement, feel a little bit more motivated? It might be something like having your resume, redone, looked over, spruced up, and obviously you as a marketing, specialist know what that means or what that looks like. Literally,
When's the last time you updated your resume?
let's not talk about it. But you know what? Like, even as a business owner, it's important. Like, so you could be like, "Oh, I own a business. I don't need to have a no, no. Like, I probably need to have a resume just as much, if not more, because I'm my own business. So I have to talk to about myself and my business to people all the time. So
Yeah.
I think there's always a place for it. And like you said, personal brand. Your personal brand is something that, whether you know it or not, you have. It's your reputation. It's how people think about you or what comes to mind. You know, in conversation, how is someone else going to talk about you when you're not there? Like, what are they going to remember? What are they going to say? And so I think that's a really important thing to consider as well, that you brought up, which I think is important. And sometimes it's hard when you're the person to know, like, what is like your own strengths. Like, what is it that you should, what accolades or what things should you sing your praises about? Because maybe you're trying to be humble, or you just don't see it because you're you. To have someone else's eyes say, like, oh, look at this. Like, these are transferable skills. That means that that breaks you out into a completely different industry if you wanted to explore, different pathways in your career, so on and so forth. I love that you bring that up because that's a tangible tool that everyone can walk away from this conversation with, to maybe boost their confidence in their career. Oh, so good.
Okay.
Now, as that intertwines, right, we spend more time at work than we spend anywhere else. And we go to work because we love what we do, hopefully, or we love the career that we're in, but we also go to work to like make money and like pay bills and create a lifestyle for ourselves. What role do you feel like community played in you being able to kind of like holistically create cohesion between those different factors?
I think with this community, I was able to hear stories from other women who are trying to prioritize their wealth or their future, or kind of just like reconfiguring how they see money. And
Mhm.
a lot of women begin with their jobs as a way to assess their wealth, because we're there so much, like you're saying. And what I gain from this community is learning how much my work takes up a huge part of my identity. And I also had some reference points of how to view making a living. I think I was getting complacent with seeing my single career as the only way of making money. And you and other women helped me see that there are, other streams. For example, encouraging me to do more speaking gigs. I really saw that as an interest and a hobby, but not as a way of making money. And so that has been a new stream of income for me. The resume consultations I actually paused doing because I wanted to focus on my career, and then I missed it. I really enjoy giving back in that way, because it's impacting people's lives and people's way of living. And so I've continued doing that again. I've also started to consider other streams, whether it's doing more research on property owning, things like that, that have just helped me reshape my own thinking because of how other people are living their lives. So it's been very helpful to get reference points.
I love it. Yeah, exposure I think is a huge part of the process. And I mean, I don't know how many people listening had extensive conversations about all the options there are to us growing up. You know what I mean? Like our parents do the best that they can, knowing what they can, and they expose us to what they believe is going to be best for us, but they also only have the experience that they have. So being
Mhm.
able to have conversations with folks that are, today seeking out and looking for those different ways to be able to build on the foundations that our parents gave us, I think is a great way to put it. And be exposed to the plethora of like different things. Like you were in marketing, you went to school for this stuff, like, but you didn't know that experiential marketing was a thing until you went and you sought out, answers. I didn't know financial therapy was a thing. I went to school to be a therapist. I got a bachelor's in psychology, got a master's in marriage and family therapy. We never talked about money and mental health in the whole time I was schooling. And it wasn't until later on when I was exposed to things or that I sought things out because of my own journey and whatever that I was like, oh, this is a thing. Like, and if it's not a thing, then maybe someone needs to create it or turn it into a thing. Like, there has to start somewhere. And so I think exposure is huge because it's kind of like, what's that guy that people always talk about, Roger Bannister or whatever? Like, he ran the 4 minute mile first.
Oh
Once he
yeah,
did,
yeah. It's like,
I'm like, I don't know if that's his name, but somebody ran the 4 minute mile. And then because people were like, "Oh, he did it," other people started doing it, you know? And so it's like, oh, like, yes, of course, you can build wealth with one stream of income, your 9 to 5, but you're not limited to only that. You actually can also build other streams, and that belief or that exposure just breaks your mind open to like, "Huh, what would it look like for me?" Because the other ladies are maybe building wealth in different ways, but you're looking at, okay, what intersects in my life to make sense to create multiple streams of income. And so speaking is such a natural thing that comes to mind for you because you're so good at it. You're a great connector, great teacher. Um, Also with the resumes, right? Like those are things that are aligned for you. And I think one of the issues is that people in their process of trying things out, because we have to try things out, try to make things work that aren't aligned for them
yeah.
because they saw someone else successful at it. They're like, okay, well, this must be the way. We have to try stuff. So don't get me wrong there, but we also have to kind of have a watchful eye to see if it fits or if there's tweaks that need to be made in order for it to make sense for us.
Actually, absolutely.
Oh, so good. Okay. So for how long about do you feel like, because is it in this position specifically, feel like things have locked in into your career, or do you feel like you've been kind of like creeping closer and closer to it over the last couple of years as you've gotten into experiential marketing specifically?
I feel I've been creeping into it in the last three positions.
Hmm.
So 2020 is probably the year I got a role that I felt like, yes, I can finally use everything
Okay.
I know, and I can finally get handed larger responsibilities that,
Hmm.
to be honest, I had no experience doing at the time. But I do take my responsibilities seriously and I figured it out. And honestly, a lot of my advice to people entering their careers is be confident and have fun. Be
Mhm,
confident is for your own peace. If you feel confident, then you can behave confidently. Um,
mhm,
be perceived as confident, which makes people trust you. And
mhm.
having fun. If you're not having fun, then you really need to reconsider your mental health. You need to reconsider your social health and just kind of reconsider why are you doing this for 40 plus hours a week? So
Ah, so good. Okay. Then in the process of starting to see the hope, the light at the end of the tunnel, when it comes to your career, right? Because you went from working a position that, yes, it paid the bills, so that box was checked, but it wasn't fulfilling. It bored you. You had a panic attack because you were so bored. To feeling like, okay, like this feels good. This feels right. Let me keep heading in this direction. At the same time that you're also juggling, like you said, social social calendar, taking care of yourself, like the whole adulting stuff, right? As far as like managing your own life, really, finances and things like that. I I want to ask because I know there's a lot of people who I come across that say that they're either like stressed out by it or they don't like it, that
stressed
it
out by what?
by looking at their numbers. So do
Uh,
you feel like that's been something that's been easy for you to do or something that you've had to get more comfortable with maybe as your career has evolved? Like what has that been like for you?
my numbers like my money?
Uh-huh.
Okay, cool. I've always tracked my money. I've always tracked my budget.
Okay.
Probably since I started having a full-time job.
Mhm.
I want to say since college, which I was working only part-time, but I would make this annual budget. I would organize it by my must-have expenses, my needs expenses, what I wanted to do with savings or extra money. And
Mhm.
all I did was track it. And it wasn't until this community that I was challenged to really calculate how long it would take to pay off a debt. And that was the first time I did get scared. And I did feel stressed out because the reality was tracking was giving me a monthly view of where my money was going, and I was satisfied because I met my budget, or sometimes I didn't, but mostly I was pretty proud. Then I saw how long it would take me to achieve the goals that I thought I was moving towards achieving, and that kind of pissed me off, but it was very, very realistic, and it did help me pivot my entire life. So, uh, like I said, at the beginning of the year, I create an annual budget. When I created my budget for the beginning of 2024, I realized my must-haves were taken care of. The things that I wanted were not.
Mm,
So the I wanted to invest in a wardrobe. Couldn't do that at the level I wanted. I wanted to travel to see friends and family. For me, I am I have 7 siblings. I have 4 parents. Everyone lives all over. I have friends from all over, from moving a lot as a kid with the military, from going to 2 different colleges, from moving and hopping cities for careers. So for me to keep in touch with people, I have to travel or they have to travel to me. And
mhm.
so that's very important to me. And at the beginning of this year, I realized I didn't have enough money for a single weekend trip based on my aggressive like budget with my must-haves and with paying off student loan debt. So that frustrated me, and I just felt pretty unexcited about the entire year because I felt like the entire year would be lived in sacrifice, and it would be lived in lacking, and it would be lived with no zest, and that's not,
Mhm.
that doesn't align with me. So I started considering, what do I have to change this? And I landed on, oh, I need to leave Los Angeles, which has been
Oh.
home for 5 years, which is the home base for my job. It's home base for a lot of friends, even some family. And that is something I immediately started researching. And I have now since relocated to Las Vegas, which I joke is just a suburb of LA. It's no big deal, right down the street. So
Literally.
this has been a huge, huge quality of life shift for me. I made a big decision and invested in myself. And I don't think I would have even considered the choices or had exposure to the fact that I have choices if it
Mm.
wasn't for this wealth community and looking at my wealth in a different way. So thank you.
Yeah, it's huge. I think it definitely is kind of like a rude awakening when you look at things from a certain perspective. However, right, that's you don't have to get stuck there, So it's like, yes, it's a rude awakening. He's kind of slap in the face. You're like, dang, but that's just information. That's feedback, and then based on the information, you decide how you want to move forward. Do you decide to keep moving, at that pace, which is fine? Do you decide that you want to make certain changes to accommodate what you value, right? You value being able to be in person with the people that you care about, right? And travel. You value being able to invest in yourself. Let's say, this year's wardrobe or whatever it is for a person. Um, and that when you're operating in scarcity, that means like you're stuck. When you're operating in abundance, it means, what options do I have here? What's possible? What if, what if I changed a factor? What if I moved from here to here? What would that do? And for you to make that choice, have that shift in your quality of life, you just was living your life, for your birthday. Clearly, travel, and I think that boosts your confidence too, to some extent, because then you see how capable you are of kind of like owning your situation. Because sometimes you feel like it's happening to you, these things are happening to you, but then when you kind of take charge and you start making choices and going down a path, you empower yourself. You feel like you're a little bit more in control of what you have control over, because there's always parts that you don't control.
Yeah, I agree that there's confidence in, for me, I have confidence in the way I'm living my life now, but there's also a quiet confidence to have when you're moving in silence, when you're preparing for the life shift. I think a lot of people talk about shame or don't talk at all about the movements and the sacrifices they make to get their money right. For me, at one point last year, I had to tell my closest friends, like, hey, if we hang out, it's got to be a free hang. So we can go walk at the beach, we can go do like a little hike. But I've decided I'm no longer going to, for right now, invest in like the let's go grab dinners and the let's go grab coffees and let's go grab drinks, because on average in LA, dinner was 50, a drink was 25, a coffee was 50.
Parking.
Parking was, I don't even want to go there, but I just realized for me to keep up with a social calendar, and if all of them were one of those three activities, which they typically are, then that's not where I wanted to spend my money. But
Right.
I luckily had friends that were down to keep spending time together, and,
Yeah.
just a newer format. Not that they weren't things we didn't do. It's just that the mix up kind of had to shift more towards those things, or I just had to decline. So
Yeah.
it's okay
Well,
to the quiet confidence to be proud of if you are moving in that way too. It
right.
sucks. It
That way
helps.
you all
So
but your house is also nice, so it's not a bad place to be. Um, I think also being able to not put yourself in a worse position, So n not say anything, be quiet about your situation and just be saying yes and putting yourself like in a situation because you don't want to say anything, and maybe you're not telling them like all the details of what's happening. You could,
right.
but you're just saying, hey, like in this season, I love to spend time with you. Can we spend time together in a different way? And being courageous, let me say, because I think when we talk about confidence, it's really because that's the byproduct of courage. So you are courageous enough to be honest or transparent with your friends. You are courageous enough this year in looking at your numbers to make a shift. And then confidence comes after that courage. When people are looking to build confidence, how courageous are they being and where can you be courageous in your life, because that will typically lead to, that outcome. What wow. What some good juicy because I talk to people all the time, and I'm sure obviously your life's not perfect, but the biggest complaints I hear are around being in toxic work environments, jobs and careers that people can't stand or hate, being unfulfilled, just like these things that you are working through, and it's taking you time, obviously, energy, money, effort to get to where you are. But I just hope this serves as inspiration and motivation for folks to kind of find find opportunities for themselves to ask questions or whatever the case is. Um, at the darkest time, or just like when you are maybe in a really challenging season, what would you want to say to yourself now as like future Brianna to past Brianna in that time?
You can't imagine how good it can get. Like that's how stuck you are.
Wow.
That'd be it.
I was just talking to someone recently, and I said, the harder you fall, the higher you bounce. And so I feel like when we're in our lowest times, like as dark as a season could be in our lives, that means that on the opposite side of that, that's as beautiful life as it could be. Like that's how fulfilling, how exciting, how energizing life can be. Now, obviously, that doesn't change like, being being in the dumps, guys. I know that, but being able to hold on to the fact that like seasons change. We know summer, fall, winter, spring are always now depending on where you live, it might look a little different. Maybe we don't get, some wild snow like they do in Colorado or something, but the seasons are gonna change, and if you're in a season right now, that just means that it's on its way to changing, hopefully sooner rather than later for you.
Yeah, I think
Anything else?
there's work to be done every day. And if you feel like you're somehow removed from
Mm,
the effort and the attitude it requires to change your life, then I don't foresee change coming to you.
mhm. That's it. That's it. That's it. It's sometimes a hard pill to swallow, but you know, I think facing the hard truths, like looking at our numbers differently, putting in the effort or knowing that we're having a hard time being able to do that, and then leveraging things like whatever resources you have in your life already, if there are any, or finding resources for yourself, which there's so many different options in the world, um, can be a game changer. I appreciate you so much. I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate you growing, being who you are. We get to watch your journey unfold, and knowing you personally and just being able to see and know the conversations that we've had, the seasons that you've gone through. Life is not perfect, but for myself to be able to be on the sideline kind of watching your story evolve is inspiring for me, I know. It makes me want to constantly like, okay, well, what's my work today? My work might look different than yours, but like how can I keep showing up for myself and showing up in my journey? And so I just want to give you your flowers while I'm chatting with you so that you know.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
I'm very, very inspired by your work and thankful that I get to be a student of the curriculum that you've built for other women like me, and super appreciative and love telling people about your work so that they can learn and join as well.
I love it. So yeah, you need to get your resume together. I mean, I
I'd be
think I need to
happy to help anybody. I'd be happy to help. So
I need to spruce mine up, so I might be reaching out here in the near future because I'm like, you know what? That does make
maybe
sense.
we do a workshop for the community.
Stop it. That gives me goose pimples.
Yeah, let's do it.
You likey. Okay. Okay, we're gonna talk about this offline. Okay. Oh gosh, if people do want to connect, all that information will be in the description. I'll also leave the description of our chat from a few years back, which might be fun to listen back to for anyone who hasn't already heard it or listen to it again. Why not? But yeah, just so appreciate you. So grateful. The future is bright. As good as it is now, imagine it can even get better. So just constantly, praying and thinking and wishing and hoping that things are being unveiled in your abundance, in your health, in your limitless potential. So I appreciate you. And I appreciate everyone who's watching and listening too. Thank you.
Thank you. Also, if you do go back and listen to the older podcast episode, I think there was a 60-second part where we just laughed.
Oh my gosh.
I think we spoke. So,
If you need a laugh, there you go, guys. I did not cut it out. So there's that. I'm gonna go back and listen to it because now I want to know why we were laughing so well. So good. I mean, we always have a good laugh, but I want to know in particular why this happened on that one.
okay.
All right. Bye, guys.